hot off the press,
Mhm.
Unscripted. This is your memoir, your life story. And your whole life really has been, it seems, about living in these unscripted moments. And here we are. How have your improv skills helped you through life?
Well, you know, what I learned from improv at the Groundlings Theater that I talk about in Unscripted, my book that's coming out. Improv is all about not knowing what's going to happen next. You don't have a script. You didn't get to read it ahead of time. You don't know what your scene partner is going to say. And sometimes it can be terrifying, you know? And once you get past that and you realize no matter what I say, no matter what I do in this scene, it's going to be okay. It'll either be funnier or it won't. People will like it or they won't. And once you start applying some of the rules from improv to life, I don't know what's going to happen next. And maybe I'm glad.
Seems like that's helped you, though.
It's helped me because it makes me able to not only accept what's coming or what's presented, but to enjoy it. And listen, it's easier said than done. You don't always love everything that life is giving you, but once you learn, you'll get through the moment, and it'll either be a good or bad moment, but you'll get through it. But once you know that you can trust yourself, you trust yourself that you're going to get through it, and life will go on, and people will like you or they won't. There's a freedom that comes with that, where you can take a step back and just try to enjoy all the things that you can.
Why write a memoir now?
Great question. Well, I'm sort of coming up for air right now. I mean, I was on Curb Your Enthusiasm. We shot over 24 years, so that was a huge part of my life. And the show ended up being this iconic comedy that Larry David created. I got to work with Larry and all of the amazing people on Curb. And then my life, I guess you could say, took an unexpected turn when my husband, Robert Kennedy Jr., ran for president. So those last few years were challenging and interesting, and sometimes funny. So I wanted to write a book. You know, I'm an ordinary person. I'm a mom, I'm a stepmom. I don't always get things right, but I try really hard. And I've collected stories from my childhood, from high school, from going to LA, not knowing anybody, and then being dropped into these extraordinary circumstances. So and a lot of people always ask me, you know, what was it like? What was it like working on Curb? What's it like being married to Bobby? What's it like, all of it? What's it like, you know, being in Washington, D.C.?
What's it like being at the center of controversy, too?
Yes.
That's part of it, too,
That
part of
is
your story.
part of it, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And you get into all of that. Was it easy to put the pen to paper on this, or were there parts that you really struggled with? What was that editing process like?
it wasn't easy, you know. The comedy of it comes easy. And the struggles are personal, and it was hard to, be honest and forthcoming. But I wanted to, because I wanted to share those moments with people in a real way, and also to show how life is of course, it's got its ups and downs, and if you can find the humor in a lot of it, it helps you get through the hard times.
Seems like you're speaking your truth.
Yeah.
But are you also trying to set the record straight?
In some ways, yes, because I mean, I learned that lesson when I started out as an actress and started to become known. You have people coming at you and saying, "Oh, she's this, she's that," and it usually, it doesn't matter because you know who you are, um, and it's acting, and it's a TV show or a film, and it's sort of easier to uh, move through.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it's come to my family or people having ideas about me that aren't necessarily true, and it's hard. It's hard because stories are breaking and people are saying things, and it's going back and forth every day, all day, at the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I did want to set the record straight a little bit. Mm-hmm.
You've learned, though, also to, at least you say, try to stay off social media on the daily.
I really try. I try.
How hard is that?
It's hard because it's hard. It's hard for so many reasons.
Because you're a very public person and you're used to putting your opinions out there.
Right.
But are you having to dial it back now?
Yes.
A lot.
Well, it's interesting because I've never been a political person. I'm not the kind of person that, posts, this is how I feel about this issue, and everybody should feel the same way because I'm right about it. I've never been that person. And the most I've done is encourage people to vote. I didn't say who they should vote for, but I said, yeah, I think it's important that you vote. So, that's been my, and besides that, just, posting, here's something funny that happened, or here's a place that I went to, you wouldn't believe what I saw.
Has Bobby read the book yet?
Yes.
What does he think? Were there parts that he said, uh-oh?
No, actually, he was encouraging me to put it all in, and
The good, the bad, the ugly.
yeah, and not worry about what anybody thinks or how they feel about it, which is hard for me because that's all I do is.
And as you
think
write in the
about people.
book, that's sort of who he is. He's like, I don't really care, right? What others think.
Right. Yes, he has a very thick skin.
Do you?
Not really. I mean, I do in some cases, but it's very interesting because Bobby and I'm definitely the one that has all the feelings, and he's the one that wants to talk about the facts and the studies and so sometimes we really have a hard time communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I'll say it doesn't even matter what the studies are saying. I'm saying this is what if people are feeling like this about that.
Mm-hmm. Which we'll talk about. She's like,
we don't have to.
The book is unscripted now, but I understand the working title was Running Through Bees.
Yes.
Is that the commentary sort of on life now, running through bees? Is that what it feels like here in DC?
Yes. Right, when Bobby said when we were talking about him running for president, in the book I say, it felt like there was a mountain in front of us and that we would have to climb over.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got closer, I could see they were all little bees waiting to sting. And I talk about a story of my stepdaughter, Kick, and Bobby, and when Kick was little, and they were on a hike and they were going through the forest, and there was a swarm of bees in front of them. But it was too late to turn back. The sun was about to set, and they had to get to the end, to the clearing before they lost their light. And Bobby told Kick, we're gonna have to run through the bees. And she said she didn't want to run through the bees. And
Who
she
would?
said, won't I get stung? And he said, yeah, you probably will. He said, but what you have to do is put your head down, run as fast as you can, and whatever you do, don't scream. And she said, oh, why do the bees not like that? He said, I have no idea, but you don't want bees
In your
flying
mouth.
into your mouth and stinging your tongue. But I like the metaphor because, there are times in your life where, you're about to hit something difficult and it's going to be painful. It just is. Um, and if you stay focused and you keep your head down and you go as fast as you can, you'll get through it. And don't scream. It doesn't help.
It doesn't help
It will
any.
not help. Yeah.
Let's talk about your early years, before getting your big break, going back to Tallahassee, growing up, one of 4 siblings, parents were divorced. Were times pretty tough back then?
Times were tough, but we didn't have a lot of money. I mean, there was a time when I was in 9th grade that I was not only sharing a room with my mom, but I was sharing a bed with my mom. So I would go to high school and see everybody else, and everybody else seemed to have perfect lives. They seemed, and of course, now looking back, they didn't have perfect lives, but that's what it seemed like. Um, and I was, buying my prom dress at Goodwill. But it was fine. I actually had a good time buying my dress at Goodwill. I think I probably had more fun than my friends who were going to the department store. But yeah, it was challenging at times, and also, made me resourcewul.
And that's perhaps how you got through those early years in
Probably.
Hollywood. I mean, you did a lot of odd jobs, from working a chat line under the name Cookie to working at Universal Studios. This was back in Orlando. We were doing the famous shower scene in Psycho.
Yes.
Bartender at one
Yes.
point as well.
Yes.
How were those years in the business? I mean, was there a time, especially as you went from your 20s to your early 30s, where you thought, am I ever going to make it? Did you think about quitting?
Yes. When I turned 30, I had just broken up with, somebody who I thought was the love of my life, who had a real job. Not that acting jobs aren't real, but a consistent job. It's even when you're an actor, you go from project to project. You don't know if you're going to have a job tomorrow. But I found this love with him, and even though I was still bartending, I felt like it's okay because I've got this. And then that did not work out. And then a little while later, I turned 30. I'm living in a rent-controlled apartment in LA by myself. My whole family lives in Florida. And I thought, what am I doing here? Why did I think I could drive my Toyota Tercel across the country and get an acting job in Hollywood? And what have I given up to be here? And it was hard. I mean, it was, my sister said, maybe you should come home.
But your mom kept you going?
My mom, yes, my mom has always been, fake it till you make it. Well, I don't know that I can do that right in this case, but my entire family, actually, they were all very supportive, always very supportive. And at the same time, they would have loved for me to come back to Florida. But I had to make a decision. Do I give up my dream and the only thing I've ever wanted and go back, and start life over in a more traditional way? Or do I stay bartending and working on chat lines and whatever else I had to do to make ends meet? And I decided I was going to stay. And I decided the thing that made me happiest was acting. And even if I didn't get paid to do it, I would still find happiness in local theaters, doing local productions. I wrote a play, I produced that. Um, and I could find ways to still have that creative aspect of my life. And yeah, I might die alone in a little apartment, like an old.
Fortunately, none of that happened because then Larry David happened.
Yes.
You were, as you said, working at the Groundlings improv group when you were discovered. Somebody said, you need to try out with Larry, audition for this role in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Did you even know what the role was at the time?
No, I didn't. So at that time, I was performing at the Groundlings Theater, and I was writing sketches and I was doing improv, and I felt really good. I had a good handle on what I was doing, what I wanted to do. I was focused on comedy, and I was auditioning for, commercials and under fives, under five lines on different shows. And then I got a call to audition for an untitled Larry David project. That was just a 1-hour special on HBO. And that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else about it. And actually, I was supposed to go in, and they called and said, it's going to be pushed back. It's all improv, and it's taking longer than they thought. So, and I thought, okay, I'm never going to audition for this thing. And then that night, I was in a sketch show, and I did a sketch that I talk about in Unscripted. It's probably not appropriate to talk about so early.
Urine Girl?
Yes.
That was the name of your character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you stood out with the agent who was there.
Yes, Bob Whitey was the director and a producer on the 1-hour special, and really liked my my sketch and my performance, and called me in. And then when I went in to audition for Larry, I had never met him. I had never met Jeff Garlin.
I mean, these are the heavyweights.
Yeah.
You're walking into a loaded room.
But
what were you thinking?
Well, I'm glad that I had never met them, because at that point, I didn't even know what Larry looked like. So it probably would have been a lot more intimidating to walk in and see Jerry Seinfeld there, But I just thought, I'll just go do my best. And then I got to get back to work. And I walked in, and I was told not to touch Larry. I was told that
he's not a touchy-feely type.
He's not a touchy-feely type. and I understand it too, because when people are improvising, you don't know what someone's going to do, and some people do like to touch you or hug you, or which makes sense, because that's what you're
acting
taught
in the moment.
To do. Yes, as an improviser, you're taught to assume a relationship. So, and so I thought, and it was going to be a mockumentary. It's going to feel like a documentary. So if they felt like it was false or things weren't going right, the audition would be over. So I said, okay. Okay. And I went in and met Larry, and he shook my hand. So I thought, oh, okay, he's not a troll in the corner with, a hood on and a cape. So I was like, okay, everybody settled down about Larry David. He's a normal guy. And then we did a scene together, improvised a scene, and really just clicked. I really liked him immediately. And then it was over, and I started walking to the elevator, and they came back and said, will you do another scene? And I said, oh, let me see if I have, I do have time. I went back in and did another scene with him. And then they called me later and said, I got the part. And I said, this is great. What is the part? What did I just audition for? What did I just get? And that was the beginning. I had no idea. I had no idea that moment in my life
Hmm.
would set me on a completely different course for the rest of my life.
You went from 0 to 180,
Yeah.
like a rocket ship in that
Yes.
moment. Um, I love that you write at one point, as you start working with Larry, you would do a scene together and you'd be like, that was good, but I got notes.
Yeah.
What would he say to you?
Well, that was in the 1 hour special. Like I said, because it was improvised,
Yeah.
and the whole idea was he was going back to doing stand-up. So in the scene, while we're improvising, he said, "What did you think?" And I said, "Well, I thought it was good, but I have some notes." And he was like, "You're giving me notes on stand-up." So that was also the beginning of our, on-screen relationship.
So it seems like you were never afraid to speak your mind.
No, I
Even
wasn't.
now,
Even now, yeah.
you still speak your truth.
Mm-hmm.
And people thought you were Larry's wife in real life for a long time.
They did. Because there were people on the show, on the 1 hour special, that most people knew, like um, Jerry Seinfeld and Richard Lewis. So you were looking at these people. Larry David, it's really Larry David, that's his name on the show. So people thought, oh, okay, yes, I know that person. And then part of the reason I got the job was they wanted an unknown actress to play his wife. So it was a blessing that I wasn't cast in anything before that. But Larry wanted to blur the line. And my name was Cheryl on the show, Cheryl David. So a lot of people thought I must be named Cheryl, and I married Larry David.
Mhm. When you think about the challenges, getting to where you were in Hollywood to the challenges now living here in the political fishbowl that is Washington, D.C., what do you think is harder?
Um, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's harder. I mean, it's not harder for me necessarily because I'm not a decision maker here. I'm not a lawmaker. I'm not a policy maker. I'm watching. I'm watching it all. Um, but it's um, for me anyway. It's certainly easier to um, make decisions about doing something creative and something funny and talking about punchlines. Does this work? Does that work? And then here, I mean, news is breaking every minute of every day. And it's sometimes on a global scale. And and you're right in the middle of it. I might have just seen somebody at lunch who's now on the news because this thing broke, and it's totally a different energy.
You speak in the book about coming under fire a lot and facing some criticism, and one of those was Larry David's ex-wife, Lori. She said that by seeing you sitting behind your husband at Bobby's confirmation hearing, you appeared as the dutiful, adoring wife. And she said, you're setting women back decades. What did you think when you heard that?
I thought it was a little bit snarky. And I thought, actually, it made me wonder. It made me wonder what kind of person wouldn't support their husband or wife if they were doing something that was really important to them. Uh, so I thought that's a strange thing to criticize me for sitting behind my husband because I love him and I'm supportive of him. Um, and also, it just seemed a little, setting women back decades, it seemed a little dramatic. I don't know how I was setting women back decades, but it was kind of funny and kind of made me think, oh, uh, so you wouldn't?
Do you worry about that perception, though, that, by being seen in town with your husband by sitting behind him at the confirmation hearing, that the appearance is that you'll go with the flow, that you're always going to be that person that is, with him by his side and not necessarily going to speak out or speak up?
Um, I think I've made it pretty clear that I really love Bobby and that my family is the most important thing to me. So but that alone makes some people mad, and that's okay with me. And at the same time, I understand it's a very uh, emotional time in the world and in the country, and people have different feelings and opinions about what's happening politically, um, and that's okay, and that's what should be happening. And at the same time, we should be able to talk to each other, and even if you don't agree with someone, um, listen, maybe keep an open mind. But some people, it's even hard for some people to do that, and I respect that, and that's okay too.
But you're right, there are lots of things in the book that you'll disagree with him on, right? I mean, you're not always in agreement. I mean, how do you feel about him working out in his jeans?
Listen, there are lots of things that I disagree with him about. Um, and at the, working out in the jeans, I think it's great. I mean, it's funny because he's very disciplined. He works out every day.
Do you?
No, that's what's hard. I can't criticize him. I'm doing good to put my yoga pants on and walk around the house. So, yeah, I'm not. I don't worry about that.
Larry David once said of you, she's the best person that I've ever met. She's the only one in Hollywood who doesn't have a single enemy. Do you feel like that's changed here in DC and in Hollywood?
It's interesting. It's probably changed, and but I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to define enemy, right? Who's my enemy? I don't know.
Have you lost friends, though? People that you thought were friends?
I have a few friends that when Bobby stepped into the political arena, it became too difficult emotionally for them to stay close. Just a few friends. And I understand it and I respect it, and that's okay. Of course, it makes me sad.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but when you're asking me about enemies in DC, I don't feel like I have people like that in DC. I've felt so much support from this community. It's interesting.
More
And
so than people back in LA.
I would say yes. Um, and that's also that's you can't really compare the two because in LA it's all about the entertainment industry, and in DC it's all about politics. So Bobby is working in the cabinet, so the people that he works with have been very accepting of me. I find them all to be really lovely people. I have a good relationship with them, and I like seeing them. Um, and the same if when I go back to LA, I like seeing all of my friends, and it's strange. It is a little strange because you're talking about an entertainment industry that I wouldn't think would be so colored by politics because that was never my experience before. Um, but like I said, also I was never in the group of actors who were vocal about their politics. So I just had never experienced that. But DC, they don't, the entertainment industry doesn't really spill over into DC.
What did Larry David think about Bobby becoming a member of the Trump cabinet?
Yeah,
Did you get some
that'll
interesting phone calls?
that'll be a question for Larry. I mean, Larry's pretty.
But you're still great friends, right?
Yes, we are. I mean, I feel like we are. Yes, we don't talk that much because I don't see him like I did when we were shooting Curb. Yeah, Larry has been vocal about his politics. So, like I said, there's a question for him, but let's be honest, he can't love it.
It was actually Larry who you were with him at an event, and that's when you met Bobby.
Yes.
Tell me about that. And I mean, it was just friends only at that point.
Yes, just friends. Oh yeah, we just Larry and I went to a Waterkeeper event fundraiser. We weren't going to ski. It was a ski event, but we were just going to go for the dinner and support. And when we got there, Bobby, who I had never met before, suddenly had us fitted for skis and the ski jackets. And the next thing I know, we're on a ski lift. And
so what was your impression of him with that, with him getting you out on the slopes?
I didn't know what was going on. I was like, who is this guy? Did we say we weren't going to ski? And I don't know, I guess if Larry's doing it, I'll go along. And then when we were on the ski lift, this was before, how long ago it was? This is before everyone wore helmets when they skied. But I didn't even have a knit cap or anything because I didn't think I was skiing. And Bobby said, "Where's your hat?" I said, "I don't have one." And he gave me his hat, which I thought was very sweet, which of course then Larry's like, "Oh, well, you're trying to make me look bad because I didn't give you my hat. Well, I'm bald." It's like, okay, let's all settle down on the ski lift. So I thought Bobby was really nice, and that was it. That was really my only interaction with him.
And then years later, when you're both single, that's when you, again, re-meet and strike up more of a conversation.
Yes.
And you describe, as you say in the book, seeing him for the very first time and seeing his magnetic energy. What was the attraction early on?
Well, when I saw him then, it is hard to explain, but I just felt like we locked in and it's, how are you doing? How are you really doing? And just connected in a different way, in a very personal way. And then I don't know, I felt like I was seeing him for the first time and I thought, oh, wow, his eyes are really blue. I didn't notice that. So I started seeing things differently.
And it was love in the making.
I guess so.
You write about blending your families. I mean, you have your daughter, Catherine. He has his 6 kids. What was that like? Were there challenges? Because at one point he was East Coast, you were West Coast still.
Yeah. There were challenges, yes. But actually, I feel very grateful because they all got along with each other and they all got along with me, and nothing in my life has been ordinary. So even that was an extraordinary situation, going from having one child to having 7. Even that was extraordinary. But one of the things that I love about Bobby's kids, about my stepkids, is they've also led an extraordinary life. They were born into an extraordinary life. And they're very good at, I want to say rolling with it, but that sounds very casual, but good at adapting and good at keeping focus on what's really important and letting things that aren't important fall by the wayside.
And it seemed like family was sort of
Yeah.
the grounding force always, right?
Yes.
As long as you're all together,
Yes.
then all is good. You know, when you said "I do" 11 years ago, did you think at that time? I mean, Bobby was an environmental lawyer. You weren't saying I do to this life.
I really wasn't. Yeah, that's right. When I met Bobby, he was an environmental attorney and doing great work. And somebody asked me the other day, is this what you signed up for? And, no, it's not. But does anybody get to pick what they sign up for in life? I like the idea that maybe there's a sign up booth that you get when you get married. You can go and say, this is what I am signing up for, and this is what I am not.
Sounds like a good sketch.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely did not. I did not see this coming.
Yeah, I like how you put it in the book. You say, I never had any desire to be part of a political conversation or to be married to a polarizing public figure for that matter. But here you are. I mean, what do you think of it all now?
I think that it definitely tests your um, relationship, and it makes me always take a step back and say, okay, what is this about? What's important? Um, who's important in your life? I remember somebody saying, you shouldn't take advice from somebody, or you shouldn't take criticism from somebody you wouldn't take advice from, which I think is true. I have to remind myself of that sometimes. Um, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
I imagine it's hard, especially for the kids too, having to read and hear and see so much negative, negativity in the comments,
Yes,
the hate
yes,
sometimes that's spewed your way, Bobby's way.
yeah. I think it is hard, and I think once again, they're very smart, intelligent. I mean, we'll call them kids, even though the youngest is Kat and she's 21. But they're very wise. And maybe because they've grown up in sort of a spotlight, always stories, rumors. Um, it's a big family. Stories spill over from one family member to another. And I think growing up in that, they seem to have learned early on, if they know who their dad is, then they're not going to sweat the stories that they're reading or hearing about. That being said, it would be impossible to never let it get to you. I think that would be impossible.
And speaking of the big family that you join, I mean, the Kennedy clan, you're the girl from Tallahassee who was sleeping in a bed with her mother at one point, to now you're on the Kennedy compound meeting the whole family. But you struck and you had an immediate bond with Ethel. Is that right?
I did.
What was that like?
She was so funny and candid, and I always just felt like she was my buddy there. Um, she would.
She was tough, right? I mean, she could be
She
tough.
can be tough on. Yeah, she could be tough on people. Yeah, which that's another. I like people that are like that. I like people who will give it to me straight. I appreciate that in people. It's probably why I love Larry. It's why I love Bobby. Why I love my sister, my brother. There are some people in your life. It's just give it to me straight. You don't
Straight
have to.
shooters.
Yeah. And she was that, and I like that. If you walked in with a crazy sweater on, she'd say, "That's a crazy sweater. You should change." So I like that in a person.
Mm-hmm. But it had to be a bit of a culture shock, I would imagine, going from, even though your family was big enough, but here you are, and it's the Kennedys.
Yes, it was. There were a lot. It is a big family. It is a big family.
With a lot of drama, which you also talk about. We'll get into that. Yeah.
Ooh, a lot of drama. Yes, and it's a family that's an iconic political family, steeped in American history, and uh, that was different, you know. Certainly nothing I was used to. I talk about in the book that in my house when I was growing up, we didn't talk about politics at all. One time I asked my mom who she voted for, and she said, "That's nobody's business." It's like, oh, okay. Okay, okay, I get it. So we didn't talk about politics. We didn't talk about, I know some people grow up thinking, oh, you know, um, the Kennedys must be this amazing family and everything must be perfect for them. And, you know, look at the clothes and look at that. But we weren't one of those families. We never talked about um, the Kennedys or what it must be like. So and maybe that worked in my favor, because when I got there, when I got to Hyannisport, when I got to the Kennedy compound, um, you know, it was nice. And um, Ethel asked me, "Is this what you expected?" And I thought, oh, and I told her, I honestly, I didn't have any expectations. Um, but then, as I write in Unscripted, then I started thinking about it. I was walking around and taking everything in, and the beautiful houses and the ocean, and everybody has beautiful boats, and they're sailing and swimming and playing football, um, and it, you know, it's. Then I started to realize, oh yeah, this is different.
Very different.
It is different than most people. Yeah, I do get it. Yeah.
We talked about Bobby, you know, running for president. When he suspended his campaign and chose to join forces with then candidate Trump, what did you think of that? Did you have a lot of talks about that?
We had a lot of talks about that. I found the whole campaign to be stressful. It was all stressful. From the moment he announced he was running, I knew our lives would never be the same. So that was already stressful. And then I I I found it stressful that Bobby didn't get Secret Service protection. I talk about that a lot in my book, and
Because you were concerned about his safety.
concerned about his safety. And I mean, I think every day somebody would say to me, "Are you worried about him getting shot like his father and like his uncle?" And I was very worried about it. Still worried about it.
Now you have Secret Service protection,
Now we have U.S. Marshals.
U.S.
Yes.
Marshal protection.
Yes. And so that was already stressful. um, the press, everything that was coming out in the press, stressful. Lawsuits that were going on were also stressful. Stressful when he changed course and switched from running as a Democrat to an independent. So every move along the way was stressful. Um, and then President Biden stepping down and having Vice President Harris step into um, the nomination, and then President Trump, then the assassination attempt on President Trump. Everything was already stressful. So yes, then Bobby talking about joining forces with President Trump. Yes, that was also stressful because what did that mean?
And as Health and Human Services Secretary, you know, he's had a lot of controversial points of view and made a lot of claims that have not gone over well with the public, with the medical community. Were you afraid of what that political storm might look like?
By the time Bobby became the secretary of HHS, Um, I wasn't afraid of that. Um, Once again, it felt like a swarm of bees in front of us that we're going to have to run through. Um, but it feels like if we have each other and we have our kids, we can get through anything. So that's less fearful for
Do
me.
you let him know your opinions, though, or if there's going to be a news conference the next day about something that you think could be a potential very controversial, statement? Do you say, "Hey, wait a minute, let's check all the facts again. What does the medical community say about this?" Do you speak up?
Oh, I do. I do. Bobby and I are able to talk about everything, and we're able to disagree on things. We're able, and I'm talking like, we have this. Thank you, darling, for that um, insight. And here's my opinion. I mean, sometimes we have heated discussions, and but we always come back around to, I hear what you're saying, and I understand it, and this is what's happening right now, and so we have a way of talking, and like I said, even agreeing to disagree on some things. Um, and I think that's important. And I think a lot of people maybe have gotten away from that. It's hard. It's hard, when.
You can agree to disagree, but it doesn't necessarily go down so well sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
You write in the book about the debate over the COVID vaccine, which Bobby questioned the safety and the efficacy. You say, "I would have been content to never have another discussion about vaccines again, but that wasn't going to be the case. People would always want to talk about it all the time." You yourself had the COVID vaccine to go back to work, to go back to curb. Are you caught in the middle of the vaccine debate a lot then?
Um, I was at that time. I was at that time because at that time, everyone was told they had to get the vaccine, and not everybody wanted to. Um, and there were people from both sides that wanted to talk to me about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I never publicly said, "Here's how I feel about the vaccine, and please come talk to me about it." Um, so I did feel like people, I was sort of stuck in the middle a little bit.
You write in the book, sometimes you thought he was courting controversy with provocative statements. Is there an example that stands out for you? Which one?
No, nothing I could think of. Yeah, that was my feeling at that time. Yeah,
Courting controversy.
it felt like it. It felt like it sometimes. And now knowing what I know about politics, and even being on the sidelines for the last 2 years, I feel like that about a lot of the politicians. And I think that's these are just my feelings. It feels like that's the nature of the game sometimes. They want people to pay attention to what they're saying. So I don't know. For me, it feels harsh.
Bobby pitched, even because he saw the toll that it was taking on you, that you fake that you had separated from him for a while. Was that even a consideration at the time?
No, I mean, I didn't understand how that was going to help. I didn't know, but I understood what he was talking about. I appreciated it. It it was he could see that I was struggling. He could see that uh, I was taking a toll, and he was trying to do anything he could to help me, to help people um, separate their feelings about me and him. But it did that didn't that wasn't really the answer.
I think you were worried also about your kids
I
and
was
what they
worried about
would
me.
think about that,
Yes,
right?
because at that time especially, and still, our kids and us have a really tight bond, and we've been close through it all. And saying we'll get through it together. No matter what happens, we'll get through it together. So didn't want to say we'll get through it together, but kind of apart, but together. Didn't make sense, and I didn't think that was fair to them.
I know, of course, you're not your husband. You don't create policy, but it seemed like for years you distanced yourself from the vaccine controversy. But in the book, you do write that you can see both sides of the issue. Where do you stand?
I do see both sides of the issue. I see,
Are some safer than others, do you feel?
I'm not a doctor.
And neither is your husband.
No, and the majority of secretaries of HHS have not been doctors. Just to let you know. But I understand it from an emotional. Once again, I'm the emotional person in the marriage. I understand how um, people feel like we have to do it. Do not question it. If that's what's coming down from the government, let's trust that. I understand that. And then I also understand the mothers, the parents who talk to me personally and say, I I feel like there's a problem. My child was different after they got vaccinated or whatever their experience is. So I feel like let's listen to let's let's listen to people. Let's listen to parents. Let's listen to doctors, to science. I think it's dangerous when we are pointing fingers at each other and just saying you're wrong. It doesn't, it's not helpful. It's divisive. And it's, calling each other liars all the time. There's children's health at risk, people's health at risk. And um, I think it's important to respect each other.
What about the confusion now about pregnant women taking Tylenol? As the president and your husband have said, you know, they say that there could be concern that there's increased risk of autism if a pregnant woman takes Tylenol. When you hear that kind of claim, and as you said, you're a mother, you've been there, you've been pregnant, were you concerned at all about that message? And, this is a message that was not accepted by the medical community. They're in an uproar over this. Are you concerned that there's sometimes a lack of scientific data to back up the claims?
I I do have feelings and thoughts about this. Um, and at the same time, I'm not here to push a political agenda or to tell you my thoughts and feelings about medical issues, political issues. It's just not who I am or what I do. I mean, I will say, yes, as a mother, as a pregnant person, when I was pregnant, I was very, very careful about anything that I ate, that I took, um, that was always very, like, the most important thing for me at the time. So I would say talk to your doctor and make decisions the way that you and your doctor feel like you should make. But also, once again, I am not the person to ask about political issues or medical issues.
Your husband has come under a lot of controversy and scrutiny, even amongst his own family. Caroline Kennedy was very vocal about Bobby calling his views on vaccines dangerous and disqualifying. Was that hard for you to see the family rift and to see it so publicly put out there?
It was hard. I found it to be hard.
Harder
Um,
on you than it was on him?
it's, it seemed like it at times. And I talk about it in my book.
Yeah, you say you were disappointed and angry, but you also felt sorry for them for choosing politics over family. I'd been so disillusioned by this attack on him. I realized that they were not at all who I thought they were. So, how did Bobby handle that? I mean, you seem more hurt by it.
Um, I was hurt by it. And like I said, it was disillusion just because I always thought the Kennedy family, I thought one of their virtues was that family came first. And I admired that. So when some of his family decided to, there's no other way to say it than attack him publicly, it was disappointing. And I had to take a step back and realize, oh, okay, I don't understand what's happening. There's no world in which I would publicly attack my siblings. I might not agree with them. I might not even like what they're doing, but I can't imagine that world. But also, I didn't grow up a Kennedy.
So they chose politics over family, is what you're saying.
That is what it appeared to be to me, yes. So I felt, and it did make me feel sad for them. Um,
And even when Bobby ran for president, you said Ethel did not know that the siblings didn't back him up, that they were against him running.
that's right.
Yeah, I don't think people knew that. She was proud of him, though.
She
Right?
was when Bobby and I went to visit Ethel. Just before she passed, Bobby told her that he was running for president, and told him she was proud of him, and then asked who of the siblings are working on your campaign, and he said that they're not working on it and some are opposing him, and she was very surprised. But we moved on. We didn't talk about it or go into it. We changed the subject, and um, but yeah, it was once again it was the different family dynamics.
I could see it's painful even now.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't, like I said, I don't. It's hard for me to make sense of it. Um, I've always loved Bobby's siblings. I always had a great time with them. So this was, it was hard.
Do you think there will ever be a reconciliation?
I mean, I hope so. Or life goes on, and I don't know.
It's unscripted.
It's unscripted. It's uncertain. Nobody knows. Who knows? Well, I don't know what's in everybody's hearts, but hopefully there's love there, and I don't know.
Let's talk a little bit more about the concerns you mentioned for your overall safety, Bobby's safety. Of course, the assassination of Charlie Kirk is just the most recent example of horrific political violence. Your family knows all too well, Bobby's family knows all too well what that is like. You write about instances in the book where there were some very real threats. Do you get threats daily? Or does Bobby, that you know of?
Um, I don't get threats daily, no, but I think Bobby. I don't think Bobby tells me all of the threats he gets, if I'm being honest. Um, but yeah, uh, it's a scary time. It is.
And you were there at the memorial service for Charlie Kirk. Did you know Charlie and his wife, Erica?
I had met Charlie once, yeah, but I didn't really know him personally.
And hearing Erica speak and deliver that passionate message, what do you think needs to be done to lower the political temperature, this boiling point that we're at right
Yeah.
now?
I think everyone needs to take a step back, listen to each other, and find that place where it is okay to disagree with somebody. It's good to surround yourself with people who don't think exactly like you. Um, but instead of hating somebody for that, maybe taking a minute to understand why they think like that. And even if you hear them, you still disagree with them, agree to disagree. But right now, I mean, it feels like a lot of people are just angry that somebody doesn't agree with them. Instead of finding a place where people do have things in common, there is common ground. I mean, I think it would be hard pressed for anyone not to find common ground with someone they're sitting next to. So maybe taking a minute to find that and acknowledging it and saying, oh, yeah, we both want the same thing. We want a safe country. We want our kids to be healthy. We want to find happiness. We want to have a home or a family. And we have a lot in common. So I think the more we can acknowledge that, celebrate that, and also let someone disagree with you. Let someone disagree with you. It's okay. Uh,
You don't always have to see eye to eye.
no, you know, when the holidays are coming up and everybody's going to be sitting with their families, and if your family's like mine, I have political views that differ greatly. Some are Republicans, some are Democrats, some are independents, um, and it's okay. You know, I talk about my brother Chris in my book, and he was a Republican. I was a Democrat. We would talk all the time about politics, and well, you know, well, you don't know what you're talking about, or you should really come over to my side, and it was great because we could talk about it, disagree, even how dare you, but at the end of the conversation, what time are we having dinner? It was never carried over into our relationship. So hopefully, everybody can take a step back, take a breath.
There's been debate also, though, about over free speech, with Jimmy Kimmel's comments regarding the man who assassinated Charlie Kirk. What were your thoughts, particularly as somebody who understands comedy? You worked in that space. You know, when you heard what Jimmy said on his show, what did you think?
Well, I think free speech is very important. It's paramount. We have to um, have free speech in this country. That's what we're built on. Uh, and at the same time, people are listening, and if people don't like what you're saying, then they can tell you that, and
Change the channel.
change the channel if you want. But once again, I don't know. We seem to be going from 0 to 60 when somebody says something they don't like, or somebody, you know. So I don't know. Free speech definitely needs to be protected, and that's number one.
Do you think there are concerns, though, over free speech right now?
I do, and I think there have always been concerns over free speech.
We all change. Of course, you've changed since, from Hollywood to now the political spouse that you are. How has your husband changed?
I like that I'm a political spouse, but I guess I am.
You are.
Yeah, I guess I am. How has my husband changed? He's working with um, a big agency with a lot of different voices and expertise. And I think he's becoming very good at listening and organizing. Uh, I'm not going to be good at
Well,
describing this, but it's a big. But there are a lot of people, a lot of scientists, a lot of doctors, a lot of individuals. There are a lot of moving parts in that agency, and I think he's very good at organizing it.
you think he's
and
doing a
leading
good
it.
job as the Secretary of Health and Human Services?
I do.
You've gone through challenging times, and you say you've survived in the book what you call micro scandals. Where are you now as a couple?
We are really close. I do feel like we ran through some bees. And when we continue to. I think it comes down to being good friends. I really like him. I like spending time with him. I love him. I love our family and our kids. And it's hard because sometimes, people will say, oh, well, everybody makes mistakes. And I always think, oh, God, can we just go through life and let's not anybody make any more mistakes, because I can't. But we're at a point now where we're having a good time, and we know that it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be easy, but we also know not everybody's going to like what you're saying, what you're doing, and that's okay too. It just is okay. That's life. It's just on a grander scale. It's not just the neighbors don't like how you cut your grass. It's like on a bigger scale, and it's okay as long as we trust each other, love each other, and can really find the happiness in the little moments.
We, of course, know you for all the years of laughter that you have given us. How do you keep your sense of humor through all of this?
I really do try to find the funny parts. When I do think something's funny, I acknowledge it. Just like we talk about in the book, because there's a lot of talk about security, about Secret Service, and we at some point we did get Secret Service, but we have a lot of security around us, and I talk about of course these security details, they're trained to. They are all business. They're there to make sure nobody's walking up, nobody's doing this. They're always looking around, making sure everybody's safe. And I will just start talking to them, like they're my friend. Oh, traffic was horrible. Yes, ma'am. No, but today was even worse. I don't know why the 405 was so congested. Yes, ma'am. And my shoes are killing me. Yes, ma'am. So then I'll go inside and I'll think, why did I just tell the security guy? My whole day, he doesn't care, and he's being sweet to listen. He's not listening. But so these moments where I find little moments that are funny.
Do you feel in some ways that you're almost like living, I mean, you are living this unscripted life, but is this sort of another acting role in some way?
In some ways it is, I find myself going to different events, different country where I don't even speak the language. I don't know what I'm doing. But, I've seen it on TV. I've seen people walk down the hallway with Secret Service, and, everybody walks fast and you don't
talk fast.
Yeah. So I've seen it. So I'll just do what I've seen. So sometimes there is a part of that where I will look around and go, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Life imitating art.
Yes. So it's funny. And yes, there are times when, I'll just act like I know what I'm doing until someone says, don't curtsy. A curtsy is not needed in this moment. I'll be, oh, okay, sorry. I just
Hi, I'm Cheryl.
Yeah, a handshake, okay. A bow, a curtsy,
Yeah.
you name it, I'll do it. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so sometimes I'm just getting through the next moment.
And you just turned 60 recently.
I did.
What does this next chapter of your life look like?
Uh, I'm ready to have some fun, which I have. I've had a really good time, but the last few years have been challenging. Um, I've been having a good time already, traveling. It's fun now that the kids are older, and um, I don't have to. Well, I was going to say I don't have to worry about them, but that's not how
We
it works,
always
is
worry.
it? So traveling and just I don't know, enjoying everything, and really, this is the first time in my life that I feel like it doesn't matter what other people think about me. It's do I want everyone to love me and like me? That would be great. But does my happiness depend on it? No. Um, and that's okay, you
It's more
know?
freeing that way.
Yeah. So it's fine. And I understand it. I understand the people um, that are emotional, that are mad, that are upset. I understand it. Uh, and it's okay. And I'm not gonna, um, I'm here. I'm here for anybody that wants to talk about it or share their feelings. And at the same time, happy to go to Greece and get away for a few weeks and then come back and start it all over again.